Hi, Jim Romer, Dr. Weather, on this January 11th on Sunday, an exclusive for my Weather Wealth clients from Brazil to Europe to the United States for natural gas traders, coffee analysts, and also farmers around the world in grains. Welcome. What a volatile winter for natural gas. If you've been following me over the last couple months, all sorts of crazy volatile weather. Yes, a relatively cold December in the eastern third of the country, but a very warm beginning of January in much of the continent of the United States, resulting in a massive, about a 20% break here in natural gas over the last week or two. But we want to talk about why we have expected kind of a colder than normal midwinter, though things are not that easy. There's needs to be more snow cover to get really, really cold. There's a variety of EA numbers, one of which could be pretty bearish this week. And of course, we still have pretty strong LNG demand and feed gas demand. So all these factors are creating incredible volatility in natural gas. Unlike being long silver in my newsletter the last 6 to 8 months, a 58 to 80% move up, as well as short call options longer term in coffee. We'll be down to $3 or lower in coffee by the summer if we don't see a freeze in Brazil. Very, very volatile market. So here are the factors that are going to be affecting mid to late January and early February natural gas weather, and it's not easy. Okay, so the MJO, a disturbance across the tropical Pacific that rotates around the Earth every 60 days or so, going to be going into phase 7 and 8. You can see the jet stream pattern, particularly for late January and perhaps early February. That warm block I've been talking about from stratospheric warming over the North Pole. Look how that does create, on average, not all the time, the eastern third of the half of the country being colder than normal. Okay, that's one reason why a week or two ago I talked about this and being careful, being too heavily bearish natural gas. But again, we have relatively high stocks and warm weather the first part of January. Has it been built into prices? Perhaps. Now, we also have a strengthening La Nina event. Some people are talking about La Nina weakening by the spring. We'll see. If this La Nina remains even relatively weak into the April through May timeframe, this could affect the plains wheat crop. After 3 years of me being relatively bearish wheat, that may be one reason why wheat prices bottom here as we go into the late winter and spring. But typically with a weak to moderate La Nina, look how the southern half of the country there on the left is warmer than normal with a big ridge in January, and the cold air typically is further north across the northern tier in Canada. Really, we need to see a squeeze in natural gas. We need to see producers and hedgers get concerned. We've had a relatively warm first part of January. There's no real panic. We don't see wells freezing in the Gulf. And that's why, with this warmer outlook here in the southern part of the country, natural gas prices really have tanked. But you'll notice, okay, this is the jet stream pattern for the next 2 weeks. So even though we have some warm weather in the south, look how this red over the Gulf of Alaska and also the Arctic Circle is going to be forcing right here a northwest flow right there. Okay, look at that. Over the eastern half, a third of the country, resulting in all sorts of snow and colder weather. The question is, if this was early November or December and the market looked ahead to a really frigid winter, then we would see natural gas prices spike 20, 30%. Is that going to happen? I see prices remaining very, very volatile, but the bottom line is that it's going to turn cold again. And if we get some snow cover, which really can make a huge difference between temperatures being cold and not being cold, if we get Midwestern Eastern snow cover here deeper into January, then we could see several weeks of below normal temperatures given the MJO and also the stratospheric warming event. Again, once again, La Nina tends to keep the ridge strong over the southern half of the country and deflect some of that really cold air further north. You can see how complicated this weather pattern is right now. If we had an El Nino neutral situation or a weak El Nino, the cold would be much further south into the Gulf. Wells could freeze later in January, things like that. So we're going to expect a continuation of a very volatile market in natural gas using option strategies and spreads, things like that, are what I'm advising pretty much for Weather Wealth clients here as we go into the month of February. Enjoy.